Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed your break from school. And then today we're going to go ahead and jump into our PD and talk about Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA. It is a federal law that protects the confidentiality of student education records. So there are 8 ways to ensure that Mill Creek is FERPA compliant, because there are constant changes that make following those privacy laws quite confusing. So we can raise FERPA awareness, confirm that FERPA applies to us, know the rights, protections, and expectations, choose compliant vendors, train all school employees, implement complaint policies and procedures, and encrypt files and emails, implement other prevention tools. So a lot of these fall on myself as an administrator to do, but some of these also fall on you guys to help make sure that our school as a whole is being compliant. So today we're going to do some of these things, and then after today you guys will continue doing those or start doing those things if you haven't been doing them. So the basics. All public elementary and secondary schools are subject to FERPA. And it gives parents and 18-year-old students some rights to privacy of their education record, which we'll talk more about here in a little bit. And it's administered by the Family Policy Compliance Office. So what does it give parents? Prevent of disclosure. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Access to records, requests of any corrections, the right to opt out of military recruitment, the right to opt out of disclosure of students' directory information, which we will also talk about here in a little bit, and a complaint process, which, yes, we will go into more detail here in a bit. So what exactly does it protect? Like I said, it protects disclosure of students' education records and their personally identifiable information, but not directory information. So let's look a little bit closer on what the difference between our education records and directory information is. Directory information, which is not protected unless, as I stated earlier, is requested to keep protected by parents. So they have to request to keep that information protected. Their name, address, telephone number, date of birth, major field of study, activities, sports, weight, height. Went too fast. Activities and sports only if it is involved in school. If they do outside school activities or sports, that would not be included. Dates of attendance, degrees, awards, emails, place of birth, photo, grade, enrollment status. The education records, which are protected, are their grades, immunization, and health records that we have, disciplinary records, student progress reports, academic or physical testing results, GPA, and attendance records. So if the doctor has health records that we don't have, then obviously that would not be in their education records because we don't have them. So there are some exceptions when it comes to FERPA. So we're allowed to give out information about our student or students if there's an epidemic disease outbreak, which is good timing with COVID-19, school starting back up, campus shootings. So anything that's a protection of health or safety of a student. So if a student's having an allergic reaction or outbreak and the paramedics come, tell them what their allergies are. Don't worry about our FERPA right at that moment. A student engaged in crime, so if law enforcement's come and they have an order that says that we need to give them those documents, then we need to do that. And then other school officials that have legitimate educational interests, we do this all the time. If we have like a coach or a teacher or a counselor or the nurse that needs this kind of information and they're doing it for educational interest, we are allowed to give that information to each other. So security cameras play an interesting role when it comes to a student's privacy. So images of students captured on surveillance recordings qualify as education records when a photo or video is directly related to a student and maintained by educational institution. But if it's, moreover, surveillance records that are created and maintained by a school's law enforcement unit are not education records and therefore not confidential. If, however, those recordings are provided to and maintained by the school, they become education records. So all of our recordings of our students are confidential. Nobody can see those. Nobody can get those unless, for whatever reason, we had a crime of some sort where we had to pass on that information to law enforcement. Then they become, like I said, not confidential. Law enforcement and SROs. SROs and off-duty police officers are considered school officials if, so not all the time, but if they are ensuring school safety, which most of the time that's what they're doing, are under direct control of the school or district. The PII from the educational records are only used for the purpose of the disclosure. So they can't use them for any other reason than why they are, getting those records. And they have a legitimate educational interest. So let's not accidentally break FERPA. It happens. Most of the things that go to court with FERPA are accidental. So let's be careful. With vendors, that mostly falls on us as administrators. We need to be careful with our vendors, make sure that they are not accidentally or purposely going through things that they shouldn't be going through with private information of our students. And then knowing when to release and withhold records. Again, that kind of falls more on administration, but with you guys, what you tell to whom. We don't want to say things that infringe on privacies of our students to people that shouldn't know them. What happens if FERPA is violated? So parents file a complaint with the department and a formal investigation will begin, which can take months or even years. And what should you do in your classroom? So you guys be careful with your technology in your lesson. Keep any student data you have access to secure. So a lot of us with the technology and the data, we have our IEPs and our 504s. Make sure you're keeping that stuff secure. Make sure you're keeping your emails closed. So if a student comes behind your desk and sees your computer, they're not seeing anything they shouldn't. Be careful responding to access requests. So if a guardian asks for access of something, you have to make sure that that's the proper guardian or parent to be giving that to. And, it can be really tricky because sometimes even parents don't have access to that because of, lawsuits and stuff that have happened. So, and custody things. So you have to be really careful that the person that you're giving certain information to is the person that has access to them. Doesn't have any, so FERPA doesn't have any specific requirements for disposing of data. However, it is really recommended to delete or shred information that you no longer need. Let me know if you guys have any questions regarding FERPA, and these are my references, and have a great day.